Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 RBC Canadian Initial Research Show. 2 straight weeks of a Sunday sweat for me and 2 straight weeks of disappointment. Last week I had a win ticket on Harold Varner. He collapsed on the back 9. This week I had Aaron Wise, and Billy Horschel sunk my heart with that 52-foot eagle bomb. But Billy Horschel deserved to win. He played great all weekend. So hopefully you had a lot of Billy Horschel. I had a little bit in DFS, but not enough to cover the outright wagers. Aaron Wise was so popular that I just couldn't make up a lot of ground. Like I said, not enough Billy Horschel in DFS. That Alex Noren suggestion that I had last week, that really aged well. So I had some decent advice for you all last week and some pretty bad advice, as per usual. But we moved to the Canadian Open, which used to be a regular stop on the PGA Tour. I believe it closed 2020 due to 2020 being the year that it was. It has come back onto the schedule, but at a new course, and one that is not been played before. The GCSAA tournament fact sheet is not out yet, so it's going to be a lot of speculation, a lot of Pro Visualizer tonight, and then moving it through Fantasy National to figure out what we can maybe glean from Pro Visualizer. So let's get right into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there. It is well worth your investment. Go check them out. It's going to make you a much better gambler, a much smarter DFS player. Can't say it enough. It allows me to do what I do. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the descriptions to all 3 streaming service videos, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for the golf content I create, as well as interesting research that I find throughout the week for the golf and baseball content that I put out. So if you want to see some of that research, follow me at the links in the descriptions. And then finally, we are live. Chat's open. I want to hear from you all. Did you have a win ticket on Billy Horschel? Did you use him a lot in DFS? I was pretty high on him. I was a lot higher on Seamus Power, but I used enough Billy Horschel to offset some of the losses this weekend. So let me know how your DFS contests went. If you had any Billy Horschel or top 5s or whatnot. So jump in chat. And then if you know anything about St. George's in Ontario, let me know or put it in chat. That way we can do some more refined research before tomorrow night's Data Dive show. So without any further delay, let's do our initial research for the 2022 RBC Canadian Open. And as I mentioned, there is no tournament fact sheet out. So we're going to have to go through Pro Visualizer. The course has not been used before, so all we have is this for tonight. Unfortunately, my computer wants to use its system on a lot of different other things, so no Google Earth here, but you can see that St. George's, Ontario, which we're in Toronto, is my understanding. It is a short par 71, plays to just over 7,100 yards. Now, the uniqueness of St. George's that I've seen is that instead of having one less par 5, it still has the 4 par 5s, but it has 5 par 3s, and all of them are about the same length. So something interesting that we can go through here in a little bit. And I have created the course composition chart, the estimated approach proximity chart in Excel. Again, very, very basic, speculative, but in case we want to see that, I've got it in Excel. I'll show it after we go through Pro Visualizer. But one of the things that I don't know what type of grass we're on. My assumption is bent, but I really don't know. I was hoping the GCSAA tournament fact sheet would be out. But let's go through the holes here at St. George's. So you lead off with a pretty straightforward par 4, only 375 yards. I'd imagine most players are going to be able to get into some very close wedge range or if they lay back to whatever their preferred number is. But seemingly a not very difficult opening hole, a handshake, if you will, to St. George's. No water. The bunkers I have heard are pretty deep, or I shouldn't say have read that they are pretty deep, and the greens are quite slopey and undulating. That's all I know. I don't even know the grass types, but I went through a little bit of research online and pictures and whatnot, and I got the impression that the greens were pretty slopey, pretty undulating. So pretty straightforward par 4 here to lead off, and then you come into the par 4 straight away, par 4 second, just long, 476, protected by bunkers on the right. So again, another fairly straightforward hole, quite literally straight in this case. I'm assuming that either the wind or the bunkers are the protection for this hole. So again, straight away, par 4, fairly long. Hole 3, the first par 5 on the course. In reading some of the notes on the course, this green complex is pretty large, and it would appear that long is bad, but apparently the green slopes front to back, and actually it's a pretty easy up and down from back here. So straightforward par 3, 206 yards, fairly long. Hole 4, the first par 5 on the course, it looks to be, Pro Visualizer saying this is a layup to here, only 270. My guess is, especially if there's no trees overhanging the fairway here on the right, that professionals are going to be able to put it, somewhere into this range here, short of the bunker, and then really attack this par 5 in 2. I'm not sure if it's going to play this short, but Pro Visualizer lists it at 471 yards. And the notes that I have said that the architect mentioned that this can be quite an eagle opportunity. So everything leads me to believe it's going to be a pretty short par 5, but I can't confirm that. I haven't seen the official scorecard. But short par 5, absolutely attackable in 2 here on the 4th. The 5th, which runs parallel with hole 4, again, pretty straightforward hole. Looks like you have to avoid some overhanging trees here on the right to an approach shot that is just protected by bunkers all around. So looks to be a very narrow green. So it looks like distance is going to be vital in your approach shot. Hole 6, the second par 3, again 210 yards, quite protected by bunkers. I believe this one is very, very steep as well, or maybe it's this one. I remember one par 3 had a very, very steep bunker in the back. I want to say it might be this one, but we'll hopefully have some more information tomorrow. But again, straight away par 3. We go to hole 7, straight away par 4. That's a pretty common theme here at St. George's, Ontario. Now the fairways do slope, so when I say straight away, there is a little bit of undulation in the fairways, some eyesight or eye line tricks, similar to Pete Dye is what I got the impression of, but fairly straight-ish par 4, medium length 445. The 8th, the third par 3 on the front 9, 219 yard, par 3 tee shot, a green that is slanted, and I believe it runs to the back. So a very exacting tee shot required here. Hole 9, the second par 5, a fairly short one again, 544, depending on how much players want to give themselves an angle here to the left. I imagine they can really attack this pin again, or attack this green. You see overhanging trees, it looks like, all along the right-hand side of this fairway. So I would imagine the further left, as long as you aren't in the bunker or in the rough, you're going to be able to go for this green and 2. And that's also a common theme that I've gathered from St. George's, is that these par 5s are really short, really attackable. Hole 10, very, very short par 4. This is a layup. It says 250. I do not know what the danger is here, because if this is 250 and that's 300, I imagine most pros will just be able to carry whatever this is. But if they do lay up for whatever reason, it's left with a short iron or a wedge in. But I imagine some guys might just try to carry this here and leave themselves maybe 70 to 80 yards, a more full, say 60 or whatever. So hole 11, par 5, very straightaway, again very short at 540. A kind of a snaking fairway, as you see here. No water, and there's been no water on the course yet, which is at least it was surprising to me. But we'll get to one hole that has water in play later. But this course looks really exposed for not having water. I don't know what the defense of this course is supposed to be, maybe other than wind and the sloping of the fairways, undulation of the fairways. But again, short par 5. Miss the bunker here on the right. Most pros are going to be hitting 300, 310 to a straightaway shot at a green or a par 5 green and 2, and looks like you just need to stay left. Hole 12, again, just a slight dogleg left. Looks like it's really wide open. My assumption or guess would be that this fairway slopes down this way to try to catch any errant shots into this bunker, but a fairly innocuous little hole. 13, par 3. I do believe this might be a little creek. This is not the hole I was thinking of with the hole or with water in play. This might be a little creek. So at most there are 2 holes with water in play, but just a straightforward par 3. 14, this is the hole I was thinking about. The creek here probably won't come in play for professionals unless they are way right with their tee shot here in the creek, or if the wind's blowing straight in, maybe if they lose one left. But again, these are professionals. Now this creek's absolutely in play for me, but these are professionals. I expect them to be either in this bunker or short right or whatnot. So long par 4, 484 yards, but nothing that the pros can't handle, obviously. And then this water, I don't think is going to come into play for them unless they're very wayward with their tee. 15, the last par 5, again, another snaking fairway that looks like it gets very, very narrow between these 2 trees. So it looks like a premium is going to be putting your tee shot somewhere in the fairway between the 2 bunkers here to let you go at this green. Otherwise, I imagine you would be laying up here trying to hit between the 2 trees. Again, I can't confirm any of that, but that's what it appears. This might be the only par 5 that isn't attacked 100% of the time on the course this week. And that's probably only if the players miss the fairway with their tee ball. So all 4 par 5s seem pretty darn attackable, at least to me. Hole 16 here, we have the last par 3, 212 yards. I believe the bunkers in the back are actually the preferred play if you're going to miss. I think that's what I read. And then again, it could be a different hole and whatnot. But I think the bunkers here are the preferred play on this par 3. But 212, And then the last two holes seem to be some of the most difficult on the course. 485-yard par 4. Looks like just a long tee shot, long accurate tee shot needed, and a long accurate iron needed. So to a very skinny green, protected by bunkers. And then the 18th used to be a par 5. They have shortened a tee box and made it a very long par 4 at 470. This is the hole that I believe is going to play the toughest, due to the protection of the green. Apparently, you have some runoffs here as well, not too dissimilar from the Memorial this past week. But that is a look at St. George's, Ontario, from a pro visualizer perspective. So now I will bring up Fantasy National, but first let me switch the views here for you all and give you the Excel charts that I had mentioned. So here is the whole yardages per pro visualizer. Again, 5 par 3s, all of them measured between 200 and 225. So it seems like we're just going to be focusing on that length of par 3s, especially with no historical data. Course has never been used. This is really all we have to go on. Seems pretty solid to me. If all 5 par 3s are in this range, one might dip into this bucket here, one might dip into this bucket here, but for the most part they were 210, 212, 206. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be the focus of par 3s. With the par 4s, you had 5 here from 450 to 500, but that's misleading, as there were 2 in the 450 6, 452 area. Now you did have the last 2, the 17th and 18th were clearly in this range here. There was a 390 something. So I'd imagine a majority of the time it's going to be the 400 to 450 and the 450 to 500. That's what we'll take a look at. But again, until we have the official yardage, the official scorecard, it's just speculation right now. And then the par 5s, only 3 of them. One was 570 something yards, and the other 2 were very, very short. So very, very attackable par 5s. And then the estimated proximity chart that is normally in Fantasy National. Now, normally I list all par 5s in this range here, and then just kind of qualify that they're probably going to be going to it. I didn't even mess around with that today. All 3 par 5s I put in the 200 plus approach bucket. I just don't see any way that the 3 par 5s aren't attacked. We went through the holes fairly straightforward, pretty darn short. I just don't see how they're not attacked in 2 by, I would say 100%. I would comfortably say about 80 to 90% of the field will attack all of these par 5s in 2. So here is a list of the estimated approach shots. Again, this is per Pro Visualizer. I really don't know, but it looks like the majority will be probably in this 150 to 175 chart or range, because Pro Visualizer had a lot of drives sitting at the 290 area with about a 160 something, or a 170 something approach. My guess is it's going to be majority in this area here. But we're definitely going to be looking at par 5s, because I think that's going to be very important to be able to attack them. I think this course is going to play easy, so we might look at some of that. But clearly we're going to look at that specific length of par 3. We're going to look at strokes gained approach, things of that nature. So that is the 2 charts that are normally available in Fantasy National that they're not this week because of the new course. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Now we'll come to Fantasy National. and not a lot is going to be able to be done, so it's probably going to be a shorter show just due to the fact that there's no historical data to go over. But a pretty solid field. This week you've got Scotty Scheffler, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, who's coming off a cut, JT, who did not play the Memorial, playing in Toronto this week, Cam Smith, Rory. So, pretty strong field. Now, it's going to be pretty weird to not see Dustin Johnson there. He is sponsored by RBC, so he's normally at the Heritage, normally at the RBC Canadian, and these types of things. So it's going to be weird not to see him there. A couple interesting notes here. Johnny Vegas won the Canadian Open twice beforehand. One, I believe, was at Glen Abbey. The other one was, I believe, at Hamilton. But we can take a look here. So Johnny Vegas, no, both of them were at Glen Abbey, back-to-back in 2016 and 2017. So he's generally played the Canadian Open pretty darn well. Again, not going to put a whole lot of emphasis into that because this is a new course, but it is something to keep in mind that he has played well on or at the Canadian Open in the past. But you see here, I've got this set for the beginning of this calendar year, 2022, 36 rounds. So your top performers since the start of this calendar year that are in the field this week, you got Scheffler, Shane Lowry, Fitzpatrick, JT, Cam Smith, Rory, Chris Kirk, Sam Burns, Munoz, and Corey Connors. So no real surprise here. I mean, just your best players of the season so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at short course metrics. That is down here. Losing my mind. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at short course metrics. You have 22 rounds since the start of the calendar year. Most players have in the teens, which will be fine. So your top performers on short courses since the start of this calendar year. You have Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, JT Poston, Keith Mitchell, Nick Taylor, Rory, Adam Hadwin, Corey Connors, HV3, and Ryan Armour. So let's see here. JT Poston, pretty interesting name here. Somebody that I can't really narrow down. He just seems to kind of pop and win randomly out of nowhere. Wow, they actually do have the Memorial already in. Very interesting. All right. Did not expect that. So if you all want to take a look at that, we can if you are in chat. So JT Poston, Nick Taylor, Canadian, makes a whole lot of sense. Adam Hadwin, Canadian, Corey Connors, Canadian. Probably going to be a theme this week with the nationality of those players. So there's a look at the short course. This is really speculative for me, but I'm going to look at easy. I just think this course is going to play easy. We know it's going to be short, but I think it's going to play easy. So again, I don't want to put a whole lot of stock into it, but I am going to broaden this out to say July 1st to get enough rounds in here. Looks like, yeah, now we have plenty. Most guys have in the up teens to 20 and as many as 36. So your best performers in rounds that are easy to par since July 1st of last year. Those players are Rory, Sam Burns, Cam Smith, Justin Thomas, HV3, Danny Lee, Corey Connors, Scotty Scheffler, Doug Gim, and Johnny Vegas. Rory, his win at the CJ Cup this past fall, or all 4 rounds were easy. Sam Burns, I believe the Valspar was it easy? Maybe it was average. Okay, he did have 1 round that was easy. He generally plays well when it's easy. Corey Connor, Danny Lee, someone else to think about. All right, decent stuff here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at strokes gained approach. Again, it's just the stat that is most indicative to long-term success. I quite heavily believe that. So make sure I don't have any other filters on here. Your top strokes gained approach players since the start of the calendar year from 1/1/22 forward. Shane Lowry, Scotty Scheffler, Cam Smith, Justin Thomas, Luke Donald, Nick Taylor, Tony Finau, Adam Hadwin, CT Pan, and Rory. Okay, it'll be interesting to see how much the Memorial played like I thought it would last week with all the around the green metrics approach and whatnot. Maybe we can take a look at that at the very end. So let's start taking a look at a couple of things that we might think could play here. We saw that all the par 3s are from 200 to 225. Again, just making sure I don't have any filters here. So your top performers at the length of par 3s here at, I almost said Royal St. George's, at St. George's, Ontario. You have Corey Connors, Vaughn Taylor, Brian Stewart, Patrick Reed, CT Pan, Stefan Jaeger, Andrew Novak, Brendan Todd, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Cameron Champ. So, all right. Yep. So all 5 par 3s fall into this bucket here. Maybe one falls into here, maybe one falls into here, but I am pretty darn confident that by the end of the week, I'm going to just be focusing on this par 3. I'm probably just going to be focusing on that even tomorrow in the Data Dive show. Last couple of things that I want to see here. Let's take a look at Eagles. Again, these par 5s seem to be very, very attackable. A lot of easy chances. So Eagles gained would be an interesting thing to look at this week, and I might put some weight into the final mixed condition model. So Eagles gained since the start of the 2022 calendar year. You've got David Lipsky, Stefan Jaeger, Luke List, Mark Hubbard, Callum Tarrant, Patrick Rogers, Lee Hodges, Scott Gutschewski, Chris Kirk, Wesley Bryan, and Cameron Percy. So a very different list of names than the ones that we have been seeing. So if you go by Eagles gained, if you want to see who gains the most Eagles and who's giving themselves the most opportunities, so Luke List is 10th in opportunities, 3rd in Eagles. You've got Chris Kirk, 3rd in opportunities, 9th in Eagles. Austin Smotherman, 8th in opportunities, 22nd in Eagles. Okay. Let's take a look at birdies and better as well. Again, I just think this course is going to be easy. So your top birdies or better gained players, not just Eagles, but birdies or better, in the same time frame from 1/1/22 forward. You have Scotty Scheffler, Cam Smith, Tyrrell Hatton, JT, Rory, HV3, Sam Burns, Scott Brown, Justin Rose, and Chris Kirk. So more of the overlap here is the first time we've said Scott Brown. HV3 has popped a couple of times now. I think this might be the first time we've said Tyrrell Hatton's name tonight. Okay, let's see. Something else that we might want to take a look at. Par 5 efficiency, just the sheer fact that you're going to have to be able to score on these par 5s. So your top performers on par 5s from the beginning of this calendar year forward: Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Johnny Vegas, Cameron Percy. It's a kind of second or third time we've mentioned him. Cameron Smith, Matthias Schwab, Rory, Keith Mitchell, JT, and Sam Burns. So the usual list of suspects here. All right. So I think the last thing I want to do, and yes, it's been a pretty short show, but with no GCSA tournament fact sheet, no prior course history, not much we can do until we get a really good feel of the course. Let's take a look at the Memorial statistics and see how that came out. So as I thought, it was going to be difficult all 4 rounds. Lightning speed greens, it actually did have only one round. It did have one round of fast. Now I put over 7,400 in my final mixed condition model. Fantasy National has this listed as 72 to 7,400, so that could have been 5% of not good data essentially. I would imagine it was very close to 7,400, but nevertheless, that was 5% that it seemed like I got wrong. Let's take a look at strokes gained. I put a lot in approach and a lot in around the green. Around the green looks like it was pretty, not important, or not as important as it's been in previous years. So Joaquin Neiman, not good there. Daniel Berger was not good. Corey Connors was not good. So again, probably some percentage here that is wrong. I had put 15% in strokes gained around the green when it's difficult. Based on these numbers, it would be fair to say maybe 5 to 10%. I put 15% in strokes gained approach. I think that was well warranted, depending on seeing the stats here. Not depending on them, seeing the stats here. I think that was well warranted. Something else that I really focused on was the par fours, 450 to 500. Yeah. You had Neiman at minus 1.9, but your winner, Billy Horschel, and Sungjae were the leaders in that category. You see the pretty strong correlation here. Once you get past Sam Ryder, who was pretty good from the length of par fours, you've got another long run of really high success. So felt pretty good about that one. And then the 175 to 200 par threes was something else that I was very, very high on. It looks like that's the most, so 3.7. Yeah, look at that correlation over here. 10th. So your top 10, a top 15, a top 20, middling, and then winner, second, third, top 15, top 20. Yeah, so that one turned out to be correct, the 175 to 200. So if anyone's in chat, you can throw something out at me real quick. If there's anything in particular you want to see. Again, probably a pretty short show with no historical data, no GCSAA tournament fact sheet to look at. Hopefully that's out tomorrow, and we can get a real good feel for the course. My assumption is going to be bent greens, but I can't assume that. So I don't want to lead you all astray. If it turns out to be something weird like POA or Bermuda, I wouldn't think it's Bermuda, but you never know. So I think that is going to do it for the initial research of the Canadian Open. Again, apologies, we normally go longer. Not a lot to cover. I did show you the estimated proximity chart, the course composition chart. So hopefully we'll have a lot to cover tomorrow night and start really digging in and figuring out who's going to play well at this new course on the PGA Tour. So for all of the wagers that you made this past week for the Memorial, for all of the DFS contests you entered for the weekend of the Memorial, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive Show, may all your bets be profitable.